I grew up in Homer, Alaska, and I always grew up in fairly large houses and lived in a large house. Well, I don't think I've changed because I became a Kilcher. I'm just experiencing different things.
For over a decade, Jane Kilcher has captured hearts with her raw, rugged portrayal of life. But behind closed doors lies a side of Jane the public rarely sees. For years, Jane kept quiet about the drama, the tension, and the people she couldn't stand working with. But now, she's breaking her silence.
So today I'm snooping around everybody's house site. No one's home at seniors' play.
Naming the 5 members she hated the most. Some are shocking, some are personal, and once you hear her list, you'll never watch Alaska: The Last Frontier the same way again. Before Jane Kilcher survived the freezing winters and harsh wilderness of Alaska, she was just a tough kid growing up in Anchorage. Jane wasn't born into the Kilcher family legacy like the others. She came from a fishing family, raised on hard work. From a young age, she learned how brutal nature could be. While most kids were worrying about after-school jobs, Jane was hauling fish and handling gear on the waters of Alaska. That's where she built her reputation as someone who never backed down from a challenge. But life on the ocean wasn't enough. It was the raw, unforgiving frontier that called to her. That's where she met Lee Kilcher, part of the famous Kilcher clan. It wasn't long before Jane traded fishing boats for the isolated homestead. But fitting into the Kilcher family wasn't as simple as chopping wood and surviving the snow. The cameras didn't always show it, but behind the scenes, not everyone welcomed Jane with open arms. And it didn't take long before old family traditions, hidden rivalries, and off-camera drama made life harder than any Alaskan winter. Eve Kilcher. The first person who made life difficult for Jane Kilcher wasn't some outsider or rival survivalist. It was someone right inside the family, Eve Kilcher. Fans of Alaska: The Last Frontier knew Eve as the quiet, hardworking wife of Ivan Kilcher. She's always been seen tending the garden, taking care of the animals, and playing the role of the peaceful, grounded homesteader. But behind the camera, both Jane and Eve came from 2 opposite worlds. Jane grew up tough, hauling fish in the rough waters of Alaska, always outspoken. Eve was reserved and raised on tradition. It didn't take long for those differences to start causing tension. At first it was subtle, the awkward silences during family meals, the way Eve avoided eye contact when conversations got heated, but longtime viewers picked up on the signs. Over the seasons, things only got worse. Jane wasn't afraid to speak her mind. She questioned decisions, challenged old family habits, and made it clear she wasn't just there to blend in. Some saw that as strength. Others, like Eve, saw it as disrespect. There were arguments about how things should be done on the homestead. Fans started noticing how rarely the 2 women shared meaningful scenes together, even during big family events. And when they did, the body language said it all. Jane, known for her fiery temper, didn't always hide her frustration. She made subtle comments during interviews and on social media, hinting that not everyone in the family welcomed her with open arms. It wasn't about survival skills. Jane could fish, hunt, and survive better than most. It was about loyalty and the complicated family hierarchy that runs deep in the Kilcher clan. Jane's emotions were written all over her face. Fans speculated for years about the cold exchanges, the distant interactions, and the way Jane sometimes looked ready to pack her bags and walk away. Being on the homestead meant dealing with brutal winters, dangerous animals, and life-or-death situations. But for Jane, the hardest battles were often fought inside the family circle, and the tension with Eve, that was only the beginning. Otto Kilcher. On the surface, Otto's the one holding the family together, the man who can fix anything and build everything. But what the show doesn't always highlight is Otto's stubborn streak. He's been doing things his way for decades, and when Jane showed up with her bold attitude and outsider background, it created an intense drama that's been boiling under the surface for years. Jane didn't grow up living off-grid like Otto. She was raised in Anchorage and spent most of her life working the dangerous waters off Homer as a commercial fisherman. She knew how to survive and how to speak her mind. That's exactly where the trouble started. Otto was used to running the show when it came to the homestead, but Jane wasn't about to stay quiet. Their first real clash played out quietly at first. little disagreements over how to approach repairs or the right way to store supplies to prepare for winter. But it didn't stay small for long. In one episode, viewers caught a tense moment when Jane openly called out Otto during a dangerous repair job. She argued that rushing to fix equipment just for the cameras was putting people at risk. Otto, never one to take criticism lightly, pushed back. The exchange was short, but the tension hung in the air like an Alaskan blizzard, and from that moment, the cracks only got wider. Off-camera, Jane has hinted for years that not everyone in the Kilcher family accepted her. Fans believe Otto sits at the center of that divide. He respects tradition. He believes in earning your place the hard way, and even after years of hard work, some viewers think Otto never saw Jane as part of the Kilcher legacy. But for Jane, the frustration wasn't just about old family rules, it was about respect. She'd risked her life on fishing boats and built her own reputation long before reality TV came calling. Fans could feel it. Jane wanted change. Otto wanted control. And when you're fighting for space on a remote homestead, the real battle isn't against the wilderness. It's against the family politics happening right under the snow. Shane Kilcher. To the outside world, Shane comes across as the quiet one. He's Lee's older brother, a man who usually stays out of the spotlight and away from the chaos. But even the calmest family members have their limits. And when Jane married into the Kilcher clan, her relationship with Shane was tense from day one. The Kilcher family is known for being close, but that closeness comes with strict traditions and unspoken rules. Jane didn't grow up with any of that. She came from Homer, raised under harsh conditions. She brought her fiery personality and strong opinions right into the middle of the Kilcher legacy, and that didn't sit well with everyone, especially Shane. Even though Shane keeps his distance from most of the family drama, his loyalty to the Kilcher way of life runs deep. He grew up with the family's survivalist mindset, the pride in doing things the traditional way. So when Jane came along, speaking her mind, challenging old habits, and pushing for change, Shane wasn't quick to embrace her. Jane even hinted at the tension in interviews, saying not everyone accepted her right away. And when it came to Shane, the tension wasn't just about her, it was tied to old family wounds, especially between Shane and Lee. The two brothers have always had a complicated relationship. Growing up in the Alaskan wilderness, the Kilcher siblings were raised to be tough and self-sufficient, but competition was inevitable, and that sibling rivalry carried into adulthood. When Jane married Lee, she brought a new energy into the family, one that disrupted the old dynamic. Suddenly, Lee had a partner who stood up for him, questioned the hierarchy, and challenged anyone who disrespected their space on the homestead. Their awkward relationship played out quietly, but viewers noticed the distance and the cold silences during family gatherings. In a place as isolated as the Kilcher homestead, where survival depends on trust and unity, that quiet divide was impossible to miss. And for Jane, dealing with Shane's silent resistance was just another battle in the ongoing family storm. And the next name on Jane's list? That feud was about to get even more personal. Bonnie Kilcher. At first glance, Bonnie's known to be warm, soft-spoken, and the glue that holds the Kilcher family together. She's Otto's wife, always appearing calm and collected, helping with the homestead, smiling through every season. But reality isn't always what it looks like on TV, and Jane learned that fast. Beneath Bonnie's polite words and calm presence, there was chaos. At first, they tried to keep the peace. Jane was determined to earn her place in the family, and Bonnie wanted to keep the spotlight off any drama. But the cracks started to show. Their personalities couldn't have been more different. Bonnie followed tradition, believed in keeping family matters private, and protecting the Kilcher name at all costs. Jane was outspoken, quick to challenge people, and not afraid to call things out. The first few seasons showed signs of the rift. During group projects, Bonnie and Jane rarely interacted. It wasn't about skills or survival. Jane could handle herself just as well as anyone else on the homestead. It was about pride and control. Bonnie had been part of the Kilcher family for decades, fiercely protective of their legacy. Jane represented an outsider challenging the family's way of life, and the quiet standoff between them only got worse as time went on. Even when the cameras weren't rolling, the distance between Jane and Bonnie stayed. But if you thought that drama was intense, the next person on Jane's list made life even harder. This wasn't just about clashing personalities. It was about trust and the kind of family feud that changes everything. That's Kilcher Sr. Atz Sr. is the reason the Kilcher family survived the harsh wilderness for generations. He's known for his survival skills, tough love lessons, and old-school values. But behind that reputation is a complicated history, one that's been brewing tension in the family for years. Atz Sr. built his life in Alaska long before the cameras showed up. He learned to survive with his bare hands, raised his children to be tough, and carried the Kilcher legacy on his back. But with that legacy came strict expectations, and Jane never fit into that mold. She wasn't raised under Atz's roof. She didn't grow up learning the Kilcher way from childhood. She came from Homer, with survival instincts of her own, and an attitude to match. From the start, Jane and Atz Sr. kept things simple on camera, but longtime fans noticed the cracks. During family meetings, Jane's opinions were often brushed aside. During survival challenges, her skills were questioned, even though she had years of experience battling Alaska's brutal conditions. The tension was quiet but constant. Over the years, she's made it clear that not everyone in the family welcomed her, and fans believe much of that resistance came from Atz Sr. His old-school mindset clashed hard with Jane's outspoken nature, and neither one was the type to back down. Jane worked hard to earn her place, but for Atz Sr., tradition always came first. And for a woman like Jane, who built her life on independence and strength, blending in wasn't an option. But the tension with Atz Sr. wasn't the end. It was just another chapter in the quiet family feud that nearly pushed Jane to walk away from it all. After all the family drama, Jane Kilcher finally hit her breaking point. For years, she held her ground on the Kilcher homestead, battling Alaska's brutal winters. But it wasn't the snowstorms or wild animals that made life unbearable. It was the constant tension behind the scenes. There were whispers about her considering leaving the show altogether. At one point, Jane even admitted that the pressure of reality TV, combined with off-camera drama, was pushing her to the limit. But it didn't end there. Jane also hinted that her marriage to Atz Lee was tested by all the tension. With Atz Lee often caught between his wife and the complicated dynamics of his family, things only got more stressful. Fans watched closely, analyzing every interaction, wondering if Jane and Atz Lee could hold it together while the family feud quietly brewed. Meanwhile, the producers of Alaska: The Last Frontier kept the cameras rolling, but some sharp-eyed viewers noticed Jane appearing less, whether it was by choice or the result of the growing divide in the family. Jane Kilcher was ready to step away from the chaos and maybe even the show itself. But where does that leave her now? Jane Kilcher's journey on has been anything but easy. From the rough waters of Homer to the frozen mountains of the Kilcher homestead, she's faced it all. But behind the smiling faces and picture-perfect scenes, there were rivalries and quiet grudges building up. And while some tried to keep those issues hidden, Jane was never one to stay silent. She stood her ground, spoke her mind, and fought for her place in a family that wasn't always ready to accept her. Now, fans are left wondering what comes next. Jane's pulled back from the spotlight, hinting that the family feuds nearly pushed her to the edge. Some believe she's ready to walk away for good. Others think she'll keep fighting, carving her own space in the Alaskan wilderness, with or without the cameras rolling. One thing's for sure, life on the Kilcher homestead may look peaceful, but behind the scenes, it's a different story. And for Jane Kilcher, the fight for respect and peace is far from over. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe for further updates, and click the next video on screen now for another interesting story.